What's up, guys? It's Dan at yourpbfriend.com. We are here at Paintball Extravaganza 2016 with the brand new Luxe ICE. I have Russell, who is the marketing guy with Philadelphia Americans. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do some question and answers from what you guys asked. This morning I asked a question in a couple Luxe Facebook forums. What questions do you want to know about the Luxe ICE? So we're going to go and ask and answer these questions, and Russell will give us our best shot. So I'm going to jump into here right now, and we're going to go through and check the first one. The first question that I was asked from a guy named Joe, he said, will the new engine work with older Luxes?
Okay, so that's a two-part question. The short answer is no. You can't pull the bolt out of here and put it in OLED. However, the airflow passages inside the body itself don't prohibit the use of this engine. So we will have to do a unique back portion. About that much of the bolt will have to be unique for a retrofit kit. It is on the design table. It is not something that is going to be anytime soon, but it's definitely on the design table, and it's something we've talked about. One thing is that Luxe has always tried to be loyal to the people that are loyal to them, and it's a tradition we're going to try and keep up. In reality, we are producing a new marker, so producing extra stuff that's not going to go into that new marker, it has to be put on the back burner in order to keep up with production. So it is a thing that is certainly on the table, but as far as a time frame, we don't have one right now.
Okay, so yeah, if you're waiting to get a hold of this because you want your Luxe to shoot like this, not going to happen anytime soon. I believe that's the question. All right. Let's see, next question. Jake Stanslin said, why did they choose to go with the lever design for the ASA?
Well, the knob is something that we kept for a really long time because we felt that just being simple, reliable, there was one seal in it, was something that we wanted to keep. So we weren't going to change it until we could do it right. And the lever design that we went with, still very few moving parts, one dynamic seal. But the big thing is we had to get a ASA that would allow us to make the room here that we wanted. And when I say the room here that we wanted, here, let me just set that aside for a second. The room here that we wanted is, we wanted to be able to have that low grip. A lot of players normally play with this hand position, but then when they go to gunfight, they'll drop their hand down and put more fingers on the frame itself to give them a little bit more steady grip and do that one ball with their finger. So we wanted to make sure that the ASA was compact enough to do that. So the engineers were challenged, we want compact, we want easy, we want compatible, and it has to allow for the ergonomics that we're asking for. So it was an engineering solution to an ergonomic problem.
Okay.
And that's really where it came from, is that we engineered a way to make the ASA fit the ergonomic desires of the trigger frame in this area. And in fact, that's actually why this is raised a little bit here. Taking a cue from subcompact actual firearms that use a small lip at the bottom of their frames in order to make it feel some more secure. Kind of take a design cue in that area, and that when your pinky is there, you can see that it actually has a little bit of a rest. So you still feel very secure when you're holding a gun. And it's one of those things when you have your hand on it, it makes a big difference in just how you feel when you naturally grab it. So that's really the two-part answer there. Is lever is what we felt was the best engineering solution, but it was to solve an ergonomic concern.
Okay, so with that, is it super easy to turn on and off and it's not going to like fly out? There's been companies who did lever style ASAs beforehand and you touched it and it smacked your hand or something when you degassed it.
Absolutely. I mean, that was our concern to begin with, was executing it well. We did not want to just do it for the sake of doing it. So it has excellent what I call lockup. So when you are camming it over, it does, this one, since it has no resistance, isn't going to perform quite that way, but it actually cams into place and is very secure once it's closed. And there's a small divot here. You actually have to reach under it to pull it up, and you'll notice it's not sprung forward. That's going to help reduce it from becoming a P launcher. And we've tested it all the way up to right around 1100 psi output pressure from a tank. It's very easy to engage and disengage. Obviously, no one's going to run this marker at 1100 psi, but we really tried to take it up there to show, to make sure that it was an easily engaged mechanism.
Is it backwards compatible? Can you buy that and get that on your OLED or older Lux?
Unfortunately, it is not. We had to do a little bit of changes with the air passages in order to make the lever work, so the ASA will not be backwards compatible.
Okay. So Tony asked, what new components will techs have to stock aside from O-rings? Like, is there any extra hard parts that people really need? Is it more complex? I think that gets into lack of knowing what's inside the bolt. I'm gonna do a whole video taking apart the bolt and showing you that, but I don't think
There's
it needs
not a
much.
whole lot of new and when it comes to hardware. We still use urethane and molded urethane O-rings, so a lot of those are going to be very common between the two markers. There is a new spring in the articulated bolt guide that wasn't present in the previous markers, so that's going to be obviously something you're going to need, but it's not going to be a particularly wearable part. So I don't know that a tech is going to want to have a whole bunch of things that they're never going to replace. So no, I really don't think there's anything that a tech kit is going to look at.
Okay. Jermaine Farrer asked, can you attach a standard regulator to it like the previous versions? Replace the regulator and attach a standard reg?
No, you can no longer do that. The regulator housing is now part of the body. On the previous marker, sorry, I just keep playing with this. On the previous marker, the regulator housing separated from the body, and you could do those threads. In order to thin up the body, we went away from that, and by making the regulator housing actually part of the body, it does make it a more rigid, compact plate. So in order to make the gun lighter and narrower and more sleek, we did go ahead and take that out, so that it won't be a feature on this marker.
Okay. Chris Burns said, what makes maintaining the Luxe ICE so much simpler than maintaining previous Luxes?
Sure. Well, the big thing is the ICE coating. As said probably 100 times, ICE stands for internal ceramic elastomer. What that means is this is a self-lubricating coating. So it is very, very fluid to the touch, and that means your O-ring is going to have a very long life, but it also means that lubricant doesn't play as much of a factor in the performance of the marker.
Okay.
So in this case, the lubricant's acting almost is to essentially to preserve the O-ring life more so than it is to actually lubricate the movement. The bolt system itself is very slick in its self-lubricating property. So that's really what's going to make it easy to maintain the marker, in that you're going to have a lot less maintenance on the bolt. But the other thing is with the regulator, one Allen key pulls the whole regulator guts, and you can pull and service the regulator in about 3 minutes with no special tools, as opposed to the previous generation, which required a set of circlip pliers and had required 4 different Allen
large
keys.
Allen keys and small grub screws. They did away with all of that.
Yep, it's much more simplified.
Someone asked here about the ceramic coating. It's not actually a ceramic bolt, to my understanding, so it's not going to crack or break or anything that goes with your mind when you think ceramic.
No, it's ceramic elastomer refers to the internal ceramic elastomer inside the coating. So the coating is a plating. It's a nickel Teflon based coating, so it is bonded permanently to parts. It does not peel. We borrowed the technology from the firearms industry, so it is normally used with actual bullets. So corrosive resistance is there, impact resistance is there, metal to metal surface wear resistance is there. So it really is a durable coating, and no, it's not going to be like a ceramic kitchen knife or something that's very brittle. It's still metal, and it is a coating. Now, during our testing process, we had the same question as you guys is I'm sure is on your mind, as far as scratch resistance and durability and flaking and things like that. So the company that does the plating has a saltwater certification for firearms, so that is not a concern here for the flaking. The other thing is we wanted to see in a cyclical system. In a normal firearm, it's metal on metal. There's very tight tolerances, nowhere to get dirt in. So our concern was, okay, paintball guns get dirty.
Yeah.
Will that cause an issue? So during our testing, we actually took the same bolt system, hard anodized and ice coated, and ran them through a pretty awful test. We actually mixed a case of paint with a 5-pound bag of playground sand.
What?
And ran them through the guns till they failed. And the ice bolt actually lasted about twice as long as a anodized aluminum.
Wow.
Now that is not obviously a scientific test, but that's what I jokingly call that's a paintball test. Is, you'd put it in a terrible situation and see what you get out of it.
Yeah, that's people were asking about wire system and eye wires. Chris asked about that or the eye wires. How does that system, the wires, the frames connect now with a pin system? Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a bus that goes between the frame and the body, so there's no wires jumping between the frame and the body, so it's wireless in that respect. I know a lot of people are going to ask the very next question is, hey, do you still use a ribbon? And the answer is yes, there is still a ribbon in there for size constraints, for what we wanted to do with keeping the grip frame very small, keeping the electronics package very small. It was still required to do the ribbon, but you should only be handling the ribbon if you choose to remove the board. So it's not as labor intensive where you were repositioning the ribbon every time you took the gun apart. So it's one of those things most players will probably never touch the ribbon now.
Okay. Is it the same board? Is it the same board as with the OLED?
It's an adapted version of the board. It's updated with obviously the wireless technology. But what we looked at is we said, what can we really add to this? And the answer is, gimmicks. And we didn't like that answer, so we didn't go that way. The gun already speaks to you in 5 different languages out of the package. It has a joystick on the board to adjust settings. You can program it through the trigger. It's got a screen on the back of the frame. It has all the features that a top-end marker should have and a player needs. So we looked at just refining it the next step and doing that wire reduction.
Okay, that's awesome. Dan Schwartz asked if it's installed from the factory with a chick magnet, or does owning a Lux just get you more girls?
I would know, I'm married.
Apparently got one.
No, aesthetically, I'm assuming that's what he was asking about. But no, it's actually kind of a cool concept with the aesthetics. We wanted to make sure that it was still identifiable as a Lux. I know a lot of people wanted us to kind of go crazy with it and have this look like an alien product. They wanted the bolt to look like something they'd never seen before. They wanted the body to look like something they'd never seen before. Well, that's not Lux. Lux looks like a Lux, and it always has since the beginning. We refined the marker from day one. You look at the generations, and there are minor changes throughout the generations. So when we did a big one here, we wanted to make sure that this was in fact still easily identifiable as a Lux. Yeah. And that's why the bolt system. People were like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed. I was expecting some magic voodoo with magnets and levitation and so forth, but it was an excellent design. The Lux, anybody who's shot one will tell you, it's an incredibly smooth shooting gun, it's incredibly consistent shooting gun. So you don't want to go back to the drawing board and start from fresh because there's so many good things on it as is.
Yep. And I agree with that. I really like it personally. I said, my comment is it looked like a Lux, but it kind of had the next generation flair of the Lux. And this looks like a Lux, but it has a little next generation look into it and curve, and I really like that. Someone asked this foregrip. They said it's interchangeable with a rubbery or plastic or composite.
The grip panel you see here in the blue is replaceable, and the marker will ship with a rubberized plastic insert. That a lot of players that have been begging for us to do a rubberized front grip. It's really not our style. But we also don't want to tell customers what they can and can't have. So we did this, and that this portion will ship from the factory as metal. You take the reg nut out, pop it out, pop the new one in, and put it back in. And we're also looking at in the future potentially releasing this as a 3D printable object if you care to make your own. But obviously not today, but looking at getting that ready for you as soon as we can.
Somebody was asking about ergonomics of it. What was your thought on ergonomics? They said it looked like the regulator, the foregrip, moved out a little bit or curved out. That was just his look, or have you made any changes to ergonomics? Why keep the same or different?
Well, that was actually something that was hotly discussed initially, is that the Lux feels great, and we didn't want to ruin that. So ergonomic changes, I might as well start with the foregrip since that was the question. The difference in actual angle is very minimal. It's actually only measurable down here at the bottom. It's about 36 thousandths of an inch difference in position. and it had to do with making the regulator internals perform the way we wanted to in air alignment. But in reality, looks much more in pictures than it actually is, and it's, I would say, unnoticeable in performance, or excuse me, in handling. And when I say I would say unnoticeable, you hand this to, when Ryan Moorhead picked it up and we didn't tell him anything about it, he goes, it feels like it fits in my hand a little bit better in the front, because if you look at the ergonomics of your hand does close that way, so that little bit of angle. But it is not like a 15-degree one from like back in the autococker days or something like that. No, it's only about 36,000th of an inch if you were to lay them over together.
Wow.
That way. So it's very subtle, but the lines of the marker really kind of make it look like there's more to it.
And it is almost identical lengthwise and shape-wise to the OLED in previous
Absolutely,
versions
yeah.
of the Lux.
Yeah, and the other thing we did ergonomically is on the back of the frame. When you compare this to a standard OLED frame, the OLED had almost a pointy center ridge. We've smoothed that out, and so it's a nice smooth area, and we contoured the palm swell all the way across. So it does fill your hand a little bit more and feels very comfortable. And with that, redesigned the grips to a much more narrower grip. And underneath the grips, there's a recessed pocket on each screw hole. So if you choose to use a snap grip, it'll actually sit just as tight as it would with screws. So we actually made a little change to the frame that's underneath to show that, to make that work a little better.
Okay, that's cool too. And you mentioned something about the trigger guard. Is that changed? Not here. This is a pre-production model, to my understanding.
This is what we call a final prototype. So we get everything together, we do the finishes, and we get it ready to go, and then we hand it to players and we say what needs to be changed. In this case, players that take a very high grip on the front reg wanted a little bit more space in here, and as you can see, I have pretty big hands and I fit in there fine, but they felt that there was a little bit of rubbing, so the front trigger guard here will come back about 5 degrees in the final production to give you a little bit more room in there. We've also on the top here these broad shoulders on this pre-production marker. Those will be slightly more narrow, and there'll be a break-up milling line on the top. So this is very close to what it is, but that is the frame's pre-production, the body's pre-production. But yeah, that's pretty much where the major changes are going to come.
I think just a couple small other questions. One, it does use the same battery and charging cable, right?
Yes.
System. Okay.
Yep.
The feed neck has been changed. The lever looks different, or a little more robust, or
Yeah, the part of changing the body lines, the OLED body used to come up to meet the feed neck. In this case, we've actually brought the feed neck down in more in line with the body lines to just kind of make it a more compact thing in front of you. Instead of having a feed tube sitting on top of a gun, it looks a little bit more as part of the gun. The lever made much larger and put a much bigger guide hump underneath it, so it does stay tight like that.
Okay, cool. So that's really good. I noticed right here. Sorry, I got a camera. I noticed the board with the swelling of in the palm. It might meet only a few people that I talked to ever had problems where they were hitting the buttons with their palm, turning it on and off. But I was saying this one, the way that it swells in there into the soft of your palm, that's where the button kind of sits. I don't think that's going to be that much of a problem. Like I said, it wasn't a huge problem. That was just me noticing that.
No, it's a side effect of having the power button in that convenient location, is that you do open yourself up to that, and it's something that, like you said, we did have a couple players say something about it, but it's not an epidemic type deal. You know, it's not like we have a whole bunch of players shutting their markers off out there on the field.
Yeah.
It's one or two selected cases, and yeah, the palm swell will likely make that even less common, if at all.
Okay. Trigger, you made a change to the trigger. You can now access the trigger.
Yeah, the previous version of the marker, the trigger frame had to come off in order to remove the trigger, which was a pain for players that would want to clean out it getting shot in there. So now the new version, you can actually remove it straight with the frame on it.
Okay. And there is adjustments in the frame as to post travel and things like that. Cool. I told people that because they only saw one screw. And the eye covers, are they any different? Are they the same, or?
The eye covers, the latching system operates the same way as the old ones did. We did actually make the engagement buttons larger in this iteration, mainly because people like me that have big clumsy fingers, it's just that much nicer to be able to get in there.
Last question I have for you is, what type of testing and maintenance or testing and prototyping and all that stuff has been done with this marker? I know that you guys previously with DLX come out with a gun that's very refined. Have you guys tested this a lot? Has there been a lot of work into it to make sure this is beautiful and perfect? And
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where you have such a obligation when you are doing something that's been so phenomenal for almost a decade. When you're in the position of replacing an icon like the original Lux, you have a responsibility to do that. Various iterations of the bolt system have been in testing with professional players for over a year now. The coating has been in testing for over a year now. And like I said, we do some pretty incredible tests when it comes to testing durability for like that. So everything has been in development for some portions of the marker have been in development for years. But I don't think there's anything that's got less than a year of development in it, in not just development, but actual testing in the field. So yeah, this is something that you're not going to be looking at a first round bugs type situation. This marker is going to go straight from here to the hands of professional athletes and paintball players everywhere, and actually, go right into the field. The changes we're talking about are cosmetic, and that's really the easiest thing to change once everything's done, and that's really why we do the final prototype process, and then you get it in your hands and you make those minor changes like the trigger guard and this upper part. But it's well tested, and it will be quite an impressive product once you have it in your hands.
pretty impressed so far. All right, guys, so we're going to stop harassing Russell here on all these questions. We're glad he spent the time to talk with us. Be sure to like and subscribe to our videos. Watch out, we're going to do more videos here, just kind of go over the bolt engine on our YouTube channel. Be sure to watch for our Ultimate Gun Review. Go to yourpbfriend.com, check out all the information on the gun that you want, and be sure to let us know what else you want to see, and we'll make it happen. So thanks for watching, guys.